denied the Zero Yumi from both Gala and Bunny, and Bunny being a relatively new support coming into the team, other than the Yumi, we haven't seen much skill expression from this new addition to the team.
Absolutely, and now the Nami locked in means they are going to be able to get themselves that Lucian-Nami combination. K'Sante here for Breed, so not so great for Hoya in the last series, but we'll see what this man can do. And
Draven!
Draven for Gala would be very, very aggressive. The Lucian would be a bit of a denial, and honestly, can still work exceptionally well. You generally only see the two of them go together, but it tends to be you would pick the Nami first, and then, or sorry, the Lucian first, then pick the Nami afterwards. But no, they're going to go with the Caitlyn. We imagine we'll see the Lucian in one of these two picks here for the side of IG. And we're going through these pretty quick and fast. Both teams fairly confident in what they want to go for.
I do want to highlight that Syndra is up and available for both sides of IG and RNG, but we're most likely going to see a Lux as a response to RNG, but the jungles haven't been picked yet, and Vi is still up in the table.
Vi's still available. Like you said, one of the most strongest engaged supports in the meta right now. It does feel like something you can go for, but IG are going to recognize, look, if YSKM doesn't get his pick right now, he might be getting some more bans towards him, which gives Breed that more freedom to open up that top side. And no,
Kassadin, there's no way.
Oh, maybe they're gonna go for a blind
Oh
Kassadin picked up here. So gonna have the big scaly Void Man in the mid lane. And now, what are you gonna go for here? Do you just lock in your support here? I think you have to, otherwise you're gonna have too much of a low priority, and that means we're gonna see top lane bans, you would imagine, for RNG, and mid lane bans for IG.
What a Giga Chad move coming out of Dove from IG. He has been subbed in for tonight's match, but from previous champions that Tangyun has played, it was the Galio, it was the Lissandra, so he's straight up egoing by blind picking the Kassadin first, and he's saying that Tangyun can't make up a good counter with those AD champions, but Gwen does get taken off the board for K'Sante to scale better into the late game.
Well, the Gwen going to be picked away now here. As we did say earlier, YSKM had a great interview where he said, I'm all hands and no brains. So if he's able to get someone who's mechanically gifted in terms of the champions, they might be able to make something work. And obviously RNG recognize that and want to take those options off the table. The Galio does get taken away here by IG. I like this as well. You're kind of limiting that big team fight kind of setup you would normally have with the K'Sante. They wanted to go with maybe like a Vi and a Galio combination, but the Wukong ban away as well means they are looking to maybe try and force either a Vi ban here or just take the Vi themselves on this first rotation.
They still get rid of the Galio, which does make Lissandra or Vi potentially available. Oh, they leave both champions available for RNG. Really interesting bans coming out of IG. I guess they want Tangyun to opt into that Lissandra because that's the favorite matchup, but I would have liked RNG to pick a melee support coming into this game because you already see a Kassadin being locked in and you want to fasten up the tempo so he never hits that level 16.
See what they want to go for right now, and the Syndra, like you mentioned, still up and available, would give them some good kill pressure towards that mid lane, and they are going to lock that one in, leaving way for the counter pick in the jungle. As you mentioned, as many times, we have still got the Vi available, so maybe that's something you could go for a little bit of lockdown. It seems to be the thing you're really missing here on the side of IG. You've got good damage, but you need that little bit of a CC to set up the fights. Pick and choose who you want to go for, and the man who's got plenty of CC, the Maokai, could be coming in. Would make them a pretty squishy team for the moment, but we'll wait to see what top lane ends up being.
I would have preferred for the Vi because when you do lock in that Maokai, that potentially might mean this Maokai can go full AP, which we've seen a lot in the previous week where he goes First Strike and Demonic Embrace first. In my opinion, I think Kassadin should stay as the solo AP, but K'Sante can build a lot of MR and deny the Kassadin from popping him straight away. Jax does get locked in for the side of YSKM, really broken champion at the moment, and he does have a lot of side lane threat alongside with the Kassadin later on into the game.
Now we got the Jax locked in, as you mentioned, so that's going to be going in. Kindred potentially the carry here, and if you're having a triple AD carry threat, that could be huge. I think it's a bit risky given the Maokai lockdown available to you, so maybe they just want to try and get some disengage coming in, and that is going to be locked in there. So the Poppy there for Wei, something he was very familiar with in 2022, knows his way around this champion. And hopefully he takes, if he's looking for Predator, he takes that instead of Dark Harvest. Because we saw that a couple of times. He took Dark Harvest instead of Predator a couple of times, which messed him up just a little bit. But yeah, I'll be honest, wasn't the greatest. I'll be totally real with you, but I'm not here to judge. These guys are professionals. They're all in Challenger. I am not, so I'm not going to try and question their judgment. But both teams locked and loaded, plenty of damage, and honestly, just a huge amount of burst available for both sides. It really is going to come down to a gas up when you're hitting a tower, but. For RNG, they need to make sure they're not losing out on tempo. They need to make sure they keep this Maokai from getting too big and too much of an issue towards those mid to late game team fights. And of course, we all know about the Kassadin and what he can do should he be allowed to just sit there and do what he likes. His 2 lone wards sit upon a brush to make sure neither team gets too much of an advantage as the Gyos for game 1 ring through.
We hear the chants for RNG in the arena at the moment, but very interesting approach for both IG and RNG, because IG have decided to go full scaling other than the Lucian, but even Lucian scales quite nicely with the Nami alongside in that bot lane. While on the other hand, RNG, they do have the Syndra available and they do have the K'Sante, but once this Kassadin comes up and once this Kassadin scales up and gets that MR on the Maokai and Jax, how is Tanya going to deal with that MR?
That's the big question. We will wait and see. A bit of a late invade coming out from RNG as they want to try and maybe put a big focus and say, look, bot lane, we're going to do some vertical jungling and or horizontal jungling, I should say, and that's going to put us down towards this bot side. And they're actually getting a hell of a lot of vision out away from the side of IG and kind of saying, look, you're not going to have a free time. This Nami Lucian is not going to be as oppressive as you want it to be because you're going to have to play a little bit safer.
Or level 1 engage.
I mean, that's the power of the Ashe. We saw in the last game, you have to be careful of the slows.
Most definitely. And Lucian and Nami, you want to avoid the level 1 fight when it does come to this matchup, because that's your weakest point. Once you do reach that level 3, the matchup will be a lot easier and more favored towards the Lucian. But we do see RNG flipping the map and starting the blue side's red buff.
Doesn't look like Gideon is going anywhere near this blue side, or red side, I should say, of Wei. So it's going to be pretty much all of it taken. They don't know exactly where this Poppy is, but Wei has been spotted now, and will just back himself away as he might look for a little bit of a fight here onto Gideon. Definitely feeling confident with the buckler and looking to try and make this one work for himself. Needs to be careful, though, because doesn't have the full protection of his mid laner, but with a good push in here from the Syndra makes it so much harder for Dove to really react to this. You can see the first strike doing work, and oh my lord! Oh, if that ball lands, that's a dead Kassadin.
I'm surprised that Gideon went into his bot side instead of just going straight to the enemy red buff, because we did have a ward available around the Raptors for Team IG, but he just decided to go in and literally see none of the camps available because of how Wei counterganked from level 1. But now that Wei has this tempo going on for this bot lane to push in, and with Syndra out trading the Kassadin so very much, Maokai doesn't have a lot of options here.
No, he does not, and this is where the game gets very divided, very weird, I suppose, because all of a sudden what we saw in the last 2 games, both junglers roaming in, getting their first clear, then figuring out what they wanted to do. Finally, Gideon puts himself onto this top side, but it's this level of, I suppose, disruption is the best way I could put it, that's really going to try and maybe see if Gideon has got what it takes to go toe-to-toe with Wei, who, again, has been consistently one of the best junglers in the league, has constantly been a top 4 team within his tenure on the LPL, and now maybe looking to try and see if he can capitalize on a slightly overpushed Syndra, but very difficult to do when your laner doesn't have initial CC to help you out.
Gideon doesn't go for the enemy red buff, and he gets 3 buffed by Wei, which puts him so very behind, and you never want this Maokai behind, because once this Maokai is lacking those items, he is not going to provide too much value because you will get one shot by the Syndra. But once again, I think this Maokai should be playing towards the Lucian and Nami. Although there are no camps up, it's really bad for Maokai. But if you do commit the flash and get something from bot lane, it can make it up for the amount of camps that you're missing.
Now they know that Gideon is on that bot side, but like you mentioned, he's not really gaining anything at all, to be honest. They are around that red buff, and bot lane getting punished for it. Double the CS lead now for Gala over on. As they wait to see what they want to go for. An immediate start of that dragon for Wade, though. You can see it straight away. He's saying, look, I'm stronger. I'm going to be able to kind of make this rotation work. Actually, he's not even... I must realize he's actually slightly behind on cams purely because he's been put so much focus on keeping Gideon behind. And with that Hawk shot, they know exactly where the Maokai is. So yeah, this is just a really early free dragon for RNG. Really crisp play coming out from Wei.
A lot of direction from RNG in the early game, but if this Jax is left alone on an island, I'm afraid if once he hits those 2 items, this K'Sante has to look for those 5v5s instead of matching the Jax.
See how they want to kind of go for it. This is painful to watch now as On and Wink just have to constantly be pushed in. The dragon goes down. Took a little longer than maybe expected as he had no help, but Poppy gets the job done. As they do get more and more damage coming in. That's going to be a plate or 2 as well secured. And RNG putting focus in this bot side saying, we can take it, we can get the advantages we need. And this is what we expect from the Caitlyn in any lane, to be perfectly honest.
Caitlyn's finally going to be touching the plates for the first time tonight, but I do like this Ashe pick coming out of Bunny. He has been a complete nuisance to the Lucian and Nami, where they haven't been able to use their combos to go in, and instead the Nami has to waste her W for the sustain.
Yeah, so much damage coming down there. Like you said, Caitlyn finally touches plates. It's like the equivalent of touch grass for an AD carry. It's just touch plates. But yeah, and again, like Bunny has been... I actually like that we bring up Bunny as well, because obviously Ming was the support for RNG. Ming is left now. Bunny has been able to step up, but Bunny has been on this roster for his entire career, basically, professionally. I'm going to have to stop myself. They might be looking for a dive. Wei is in the vicinity, but so is Gideon. They've got Tangyun kind of moving around. An flash forward, but a flash not quite able to. He wanted to land him against the tower, but it wasn't able to do it. But a flash for flash, you take that because Wei's got Hex Flash in the Masteries.
Gideon comes in a little bit too slow to counter the dive, but fortunately no one ends up falling when Wei flashes over that wall. Like you said, the Hex Flash is available for this Poppy, so she will be riding her way back down to that bot lane and getting this Nami once again, because this Caitlyn and Ashe has so much presence in the bot lane where it'll be stupid to not abuse this lead.
Yeah, I mean, definitely making the most of it right now on that bot side, and this could just lead to early dragon stackings, which I know we've obviously talked about the scaling of something like a Kassadin. It doesn't matter so much if you're able to throw in a Dragon Soul into the mix. Those extra stats just mitigate so much, and with 8 minutes cresting now in the next few seconds, they are just going to rotate that advantage up towards that. Say, look, we're going to win this early game by hook or by crook, and we're going to take everything from you. So nothing they can do on the side of IG. They just have to kind of accept that they're just waiting and waiting and waiting until there's big item breakpoints.
RNG do pick up the Herald and Dragon both for the first time in the game, but I do want to highlight that this Lucian is so dangerously behind. Look at the CS count, I believe nearly a 30 on the Caitlyn. And if this Lucian is your gateway to get through the early game for the Kassadin and Jax to reach the late game, this Lucian being this behind, it won't be a good thing for IG.
I love how you want it to be as political about it as possible. It's just like, I don't want to flame him, but at the same time, like, it's not looking good, man. Like,
for sure.
Well, we'll see if they are able to make something happen. This is where the Maokai starts to become a little bit more of a problem, shall we say, where he's able to put down those saplings. As maybe Bunny might be in a bit of trouble. Oh, that's a really nice arrow. They try and bait him out right now because Gideon is in the vicinity. He doesn't have level 6 though, so that not really in a position to make this gank really work for them, and just has to drop down some of his babies and say, all right, kids, I'll drop you off at the pool and I'll be back later. But all this emphasis you're putting down that bot side for IG, it's time being given over for RNG to kind of make moves elsewhere.
Maokai's level 6, so he can most definitely create a very impactful counter gank when Wei does come back with his Hex Flash onto IG's bot lane. No vision for RNG though.
No vision just yet, but Waiting to see what they want to go for. They know Wei is here. They have got vision on him. Bunny is going to be the target because he is so low. They're going to have the Maokai ultimate available, and that's exactly what they're going to use. They're going to see if they can keep Bunny alive. He gets himself away from the encroaching weird cat caterpillars as they kind of push forward now. Gala in a lot of trouble, but they get knocked back and taken away. Dove! Oh, Wink gets him with a tidal wave, a splash and a dash, and that's going to be Bunny, who randomly has a barrier for some reason. I didn't even notice that. And that's going to be RNG losing first blood over to the side of IG.
Really good rotations coming out of IG, where even Dove comes down for the play, but RNG overstepping just a little bit. I think the Ashe overtraded before the gank pulled off. Maybe they weren't expecting the Maokai to be in that bot lane, but everything was spent to save this Ashe from dying, where Gala was left behind, and he eventually got rooted and focused down by the enemy bot lane. But look at this huge ultimate coming out of Wei, but Dove comes in and flashes, cleans up. I think the tidal wave actually got the Caitlyn. And Bunny's barrier used for this specific reason to save him from dying from the Kassadin.
Like I said earlier, these guys are challenger players. I'm not going to try and pretend I know better than they do. But with all things said and done, lots of summoners used, but you still have a Caitlyn who's 45 CS up, which means that your pressure, your presence, and everything else on that bot side is in RNG's favor. They push forward. They get themselves their second dragon of the game. That's going to be at about 11.5 minutes. That is a very, very quick soul. We could be looking at a 22-minute soul now for the side of RNG, which again, is just a massive move here, especially with something like a Mountain Soul. Having that extra little bit of resistances could be huge.
Look at the player graph and look where An is sitting. He is the bottom 4 compared to Caitlyn, who is second. And this is so bad for the side of IG because he's your reliable carry that will send you to a safer late game for the Kassadin to get to his level 16 and for the Jax to start split pushing with his 3 items. So if Maokai doesn't start helping this Caitlyn that is constantly pushed up, this early game is looking very, very bad.
I think we can definitively say that it has not gone to plan for IG, but with the rotations coming out from Dove and Gideon, they've been able to salvage something in this bot lane. It's not a lot, but look, silver linings for all things, and now we'll see what they're able to kind of make for it, because this Kassadin's already got himself his Rod of Ages. He's burning up towards what could potentially be a movement here. Wink scanning out, seeing if anybody was there, and they eventually realized, wait, they were called, we have a free lane, we can finally relax and just take a wave without anything. But that is a bloodthirster rush coming in from Gala.
I guess it's for the sustain. It also provides a slight shield, but very interesting build from Gala. We haven't seen this too much, so I'm really interested in seeing how this plays out and why he decided to opt into this when he's up against a Lucian and Nami who don't have a lot of poke, but they have a lot of one-shot burst.
Yeah, they've got a lot of potential to just kind of make your life a living hell. We will see Bunny looking now, and this is where this Ashe starts to come into her own. She's getting cooldown boots, she's got herself a Kindle gem, she's got some nice CDR. As I say that, we are going to see a bit of a 1v1 on the top side. YSKM! Oh! You should know my name because I'm a 1v1 you, my son. Bree thought he had it, but YSKM has the mechanics.
This is exactly what I wanted to see in the top lane, although it's been a snooze fest for the two until this 13-minute mark. But YSKM, the mechanics are showing, and it's great to see him shine on this matchup. But I do want to highlight that, before that, we do have a replay of how this turned out so badly for the side of Breed. So Breed decided to get his wave in and aim for a reset because I saw he pulled his mythic item once the ultimate has been dropped. I believe that Breed just tanked too many tower shots. And lastly, YSKM uses the counter strike to stop the last two. Oh my god, he just bonked his head. Like we remember, Jax's ultimate, every 2 hits, the damage is insane, and Breed couldn't handle it.
I know, got bonked, and that is an unfortunate setup there on the top side. You can see Breathe really would have loved that, get that kill. You get that down, all of a sudden you're pushing into the lane, he loses a load of CS. Your advantage in the CS, in fairness, has been 20 plus, maybe it would have been 30. There's so much more that can happen from that particular moment, but with Rift Herald now live on the map, you can see the rest of RNG are trying to just see if they can go for something now into this mid lane, as you have to be very careful now. Those Ashe arrows can come from any and every place, as we see now. Culling just used to keep the pressure up so that IG can maybe sneak themselves in towards this this Rift Herald, but actually decent vision for them on the backside of it. So right now, it does feel like it's IG with a little bit more advantage. And even though Breed has level 11, he knows, all right, I can't fight this guy anymore. He's got his Divine Sunderer.
Roshin, I want to highlight that Kassadin only just bought his tier at 14 minutes, which is putting him extremely behind when you do want those items online as fast as possible, because they have so much damage coming out of RNG, and especially with Caitlyn picking up all 5 plates from that bot lane tower, he's not going to survive until the Seraphs gets completed.
Yeah, that's he really wanted the Roa. I'll give him that for free. He really did want that Rod of Ages, but at the cost of the tier feels very, very bad right now. But we'll see. Look, you know, game could go a little bit later. 45 seconds until the dragon spawns. That would put RNG onto Soul Point. They gave up the Rift Herald there, so that could give IG maybe a bit of positioning, but they gave it up in favor of getting some backs and resets out from the side of their jungler and their mid laner. But Breed TP's up towards that top side to try and defend against Jax, so no TPs available here for either of the top laners, but already YSKM moving down towards this mid lane, wants to be a part of this fight and wants to be a part of this dragon.
How will IG play this? Because you are lacking so much damage when the Caitlyn is ahead of the solution, and the K'Sante is not here for RNG.
Here, Ash Arrow goes wide. There's going to be the counter strike to flash in. They get him knocked back in. That's going to be the ultimate over there. Dove tries to go in with the Kassadin, and they nearly, yes, they do take out the Syndra, and now it's a 5v4, but you've used a hell of a lot of your disengage, and here comes K'Sante. Breed looking to try and maybe make something happen, but these health bars are low, and Dove is still so healthy. They land a little bit of a knockback. They bring them in on top of each other. The Nami's been caught out, and now Breed is angry for the previous inflictions that Jax was able to do. They're able to get the knockback down on top of them. Dove goes in! Dove and Notion making huge damage! Dove has joined the LPL and is just shredding RNG. Really well done. The stacking is good. He won't be able to finish it off, but Dove is a beast on this mid lane. Kassadin.
Kassa win is what we have for this game on IG. Very good patience coming out of Dove, where he was just stacking his ultimates when the rest of the team have been getting engaged from K'Sante. So we see Tang Yuan getting stunned, well, not getting stunned, but getting engaged on here, but no one blocks the Maokai ultimate for Tang Yuan, where he has to die with his flash available. So very unfortunate things coming out of RNG. K'Sante comes in late, but Breed does get a lot of engage and even gets a pick onto the Nami with his ultimate. Look at Dove, and he plays it so patiently, where he is just looking at the carries of RNG, and he manages to get away by the slimmest. But YSKM gets a huge stun onto the rest of the team, and that's when he flashes in and ults and kills the carry of Gala.
Well, we're going to have to come back straight into live. Dove has been spotted out. YSKM has jumped in to try and maybe dissuade this dragon. The dragon is still Soul Point potential for RNG as YSKM moves forward. There's the Maokai ultimate. He also drops down the Rift Herald as they're looking for a tidal wave. So much disengage. Dove looking for the backside. He's only got eyes and he's only got looks for the backside of this fight. They're going to try and jump it on top of him. Gala stays alive, but just about. IG are just ripping and tearing. They've got the Doom music coming in behind them as they look to try and secure everything in this fight. They get all the gold, all the kills, and they're going to get the dragon to boot.
IG will not be waiting until 30 minutes to be opting into these 5v5s, and they're just literally out-mechanicking. Well, their synergy is so amazing when it comes to these team fights, right? We saw it between Dove and YSKM, the calls, the shots, where Dove was able to just step on 3 people with his ultimate, but once again, in this team fight, RNG is trickling and getting caught one by one, where IG is getting their gold back from the previous early games. We get a replay, the Maokai ult does go up, and this Kassadin is constantly threatening the backline of Gala, where even through the Bloodthirst, you can't really sustain the Kassadin poke, and there's just so much going on where RNG's frontline already just completely gone, like the poppy.
Yeah, honestly, it does feel like their front line just doesn't feel really strong enough to do much. Yes, you've got the Poppy there, but they're not really in sync. Breed was taken out of the fight because he ulted away. He's trying to keep Dove away from the carries, but by doing that, he removes himself. There is no front line there to be done, so right now it does feel like IG are just picking them apart, constantly gaining these advantages, and all of a sudden we were talking about a very early soul. That soul condition is no longer available. It's not that it's no longer available, it's no longer as prevalent for the side of RNG, and they need to start bringing this one back because they were 2,000 ahead. They're now 2,000 behind.
And I need to remind you, Oshin, that this Poppy was picked as the final counter pick of RNG, but we don't see her doing a lot in these team fights to stop the Maokai and to stop the Jax from getting onto the carries because she's just so squishy.
Yeah, she just has the first item, but like you said, with Gideon having the demonic embrace, and oh, I'll stop myself here. They are going to be able to get Gideon flashing, but not good enough. He falls. And you talk about squishy champions, a full AP Maokai is pretty damn squishy, even if he does pick up a bit of HP.
With Syndra and Ashe being available for the side of RNG, they want to look for those pokes, but Ashe still doesn't have her Imperial Mandate available, even though they were able to grab all 5 plates of bot lane. She might grab it right here with this base, but yeah, they should really play towards their advantage, which is the range. But IG isn't giving them that, although this was a really nice pick onto Gideon where he's been spotted out on a ward and Wei goes in for the stun. I don't think this one kill is going to save them from the scaling Jax and Kassadin.
Yeah, and we'll say, yes, Lucian is known as someone who's very powerful, shall we say, in the early stages. He will burst you down. If he's able to get the Nami Bloblets on top of him and then immediately dash in with the first strike, he will do immense amounts of burst damage even later on in the game. So right now we are looking at a... Actually, I just realized as well, on his 3-1 and 5, he's building up towards his 3rd item. He's actually ahead of the curve so much more than Gala. So Gala really not benefiting that much from the Bloodthirster rush as he's sitting on 0 and 2.
On has really revived from the previous 2 team fights going in the way of IG, but yeah, how is RNG going to deal with this Kassadin that's already level 14? And he has both the, I believe, Archangels and Roa available, which they're on a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question, but obviously, you know, if you can't tell me, I don't think RNG have the answer either, so we'll see what they're able to do. There's no ultimate here from Gideon. He uses a zoning one to try and secure this tower, which will be done by the side of IG. They're not a million miles ahead of this game just yet, but they are, as you mentioned, starting to scale. The Seraph still being stacked up here by Dove, as it will be late before it turns into the full Archangel staff, but or rather from Archangels to Seraph's Embrace, but it will get there eventually. You can see him just kind of off to the side lane, knowing that he's nearly level 16. He is 2 levels ahead of this enemy Syndra. There's just not really a lot of opportunities here for the side of RNG. They have to fight this next dragon. They have to get that soul as soon as possible.
RNG no longer win the side lane with the K'Sante getting overscaled by the Jax being 3-0. And they no longer win the 5v5 straight up because of how ahead this Kassadin and honestly everyone is from those previous 2 fights where this Kassadin is just constantly threading the side lane. And I'm assuming YSKM will go towards that bot lane where it will become a 1-3-1. But RNG barely getting the mid tower by 23 minutes opens up the map a lot more. What more can they do if they don't win the 5v5 with this K'Sante?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of seeing this. We have a little bit of a moment here before the next dragon spawns in 40 seconds, but the K'Sante has been picked, but it hasn't really done what we expected it to do. So many people were saying that this was, such a must pick, must ban, but it's not really having the same level of effect as we expected it to.
Yeah, most definitely, but I think this pick in general has been figured out quite nicely. You just pick something that can split push and does well into the late game, scales well into the late game, and that's exactly what Jax is for. And although he made it through the early game by getting that solo kill, this K'Sante the K'Sante pick in general has been a bit invisible.
Oh, there is the cleanse and the Maokai ultimate, which is going to catch out Wei. He's so squishy, but as is Gideon, and the Gale Force is enough to kill him off. Flash forward, and YSKM makes another fantastic move. Bunny is going to be turned into a nice little bit of a meal. Nice little bit of rabbit stew there for the side of IG, and yeah, breathe. Take a deep breath in and deep breath out. Because you're going to the gray screen, my dude. It's just a matter of time, as they actually might just leave him in favor of the big purple worm. He might try and turn this one onto Wink. He cannot get the kill onto Wink. As I say that, he jumps back in. There's one. Will not get another, but a 2 for 5 is still in favor of IG. I will say Breed did all he could to stop the Baron from being taken.
Remember the name You Should Know Me, because his flash E's have been on point this entire game. So Wei gets instantly one-shot from the amount of damage that IG has available. Like this Maokai pick, he is so impressive when it comes to that route. And Gala has to E forward, but look at this flash E from YSKM, gets it onto the Syndra, and the Ashe has no flash available, where she eventually falls down as well. This Jax is split pushing, and he's also engaging more and doing a lot more than this K'Sante pick.
And this is the thing, you don't have a choice in this RNG. You have to fight now. You mentioned it, Kitty. They're just not able to get there. Flash forward. Does Wei get this thing? No, he gets killed before he can. And here come the solo laners, Dove and YSKM, looking for everything, and they're just falling apart. IG just tearing them to shreds. RNG in shambles.
Rampage.
This game is looking impossible for RNG to win, and that fight will most likely result in a Baron, which even further scales for the Kassadin and Jax, and they just have so much siege and side lane pressure when it does go into their pockets. RNG is just way too behind now, and this Caitlyn, who received all 5 plates in the early game, built a BT and started getting one-shot by the Kassadin in these team fights where she didn't have the Gale Force available to dodge the Kassadin combos. We get another replay, but this Maokai ult is so oppressive when it comes to these team fights. Where did the Maokai go? He got ulted away, but the Maokai was able to get the ultimate before he got yoinked away. This Jax and Kassadin are just so insanely strong, where Gala cannot do damage to the Jax because of the counter-strike. He can't even live for that much longer.
No, he cannot, and already we're seeing some highlights there onto the Kassadin R. He is level 16. He has got 3 items. He's still stacking that tier, but you know what, Kitty? We'll let him away with it because Dove has had a near perfect game. 6-0 and 5. He has been exceptional, and the scaling has come. The solo laners of the side of IG have come to play. They do not care about anything else. This YSKM and Dove combination makes it impossible for anyone to walk up without basically instantly dying.
Yeah, I also don't see a lot coming out of this Ashe. You do want to poke down the enemy, but once they have so much mobility and they get onto you instantly, like the Kassadin and the Jax and the Maokai, you're gonna die in an instant.
This is going to be a pretty desperate defense, you would imagine. There's going to be Breathe taking a bit of poke. The tidal wave hits across 3. Breathe, that's your tankiest member cut to paper. Nothing you can do. Dove soloing the mid laner of RNG on the backside. Wei, where are you going to go, man? They're 5 levels down. There's just not enough stats in the world to help you out with that. And this game is all but done, Kitty.
Wei does not know the way, but this Jax finally got stopped by the Poppy E. I think it's the first time I've seen it so far in this game. 27 minutes, but he is so behind.
He's so dead as well, and Charles makes himself back into the mid lane with his best friend Barry to try and put down some damage on those turrets, but they're just going to back themselves away. IG in complete and utter control. They don't need to risk anything. They can just go, right, we got everything we wanted. We reset, and come back into the top side. And again, this is just funny with these ults, just hasn't been on mark.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot from this Ashe, but look at the Kassadin threatening the mid lane push, where Syndra hasn't been able to join into this fight, where Gal isn't gonna do any damage to these 2 tanky fellows on his face. But Tongyuan, in the first place, can't deal with this Kassadin never, because it's just a natural counter when it comes to this late stage into the game.
Also, Breed is gonna die to a Zhonya's Hourglass Jax. That's what he's gonna do right there. And I say that, he does get himself away. The Ashe Arrow does have to be used though, and now Dove saying, nuh-uh, we ain't done here just yet. Everyone needs to come in here. Breathe and Wei trying desperately to make sure nobody dies. But even then, it does not matter. YSKM moving in front of On to make sure he doesn't even take a lick of damage. And this is going to be the final push. There's just nothing you can do here as RNG. You don't have the gold, you don't have the resources, and you most certainly do not have the damage.
Kassadin has the flash available, and YSKM can make a play like the previous one once again. And RNG need to E him away on the Syndra.
Welcome to the LPL, Dove. He has had a fantastic start to this game and this series as well. That's going to be the second inhibitor falling. RNG left with very little to deal with. You can see they're so tantalizingly close to level 16 on Breed and on to Syndra as well. But, you know, without that, you're just so far behind. There's just not a lot you can really do. There's the tidal wave going to come out. They're going to be able to knock back a little bit more. They're going to try and kill off Gideon, but the Aqua Prison keeps him alive. YSKM already is on the backside, and they catch up everybody with the weird cat caterpillars, and everyone shall fall. Gala left to himself as he tries to maybe make something work, but with super minions teaming in from the bot side, there's just nothing left for you to do. IG looked a bit shaky in the early game, but they refocused, they reset, and they reignited themselves as they take themselves 1-0 up in this series.
We need to emphasize that Kassadin's ultimate is a blink and not a dash, so the Poppy, when it comes to these team fights, wasn't able to stop the Kassadin from popping off and getting onto those carries. Even Jax was flashing onto the Ashe. The Poppy was nowhere near that, so really well played from the side of IG, and the scaling eventually got there.
I mean, straight up, look, the plan from RNG was very set in stone. We need an early Dragon Soul. We need to try and get this thing going. And it just kept getting delayed. Little small mistakes, little wins for the side of IG. And then IG realized, oh, cool, we have a level 17 Kassadin who's just miles ahead in terms of item breakpoints, and just no one who can deal with him. Like you mentioned, perfectly set up. The Poppy can't do anything against a blink. It's only the Jax, and even then, I'd argue that the Steadfast Presence didn't even do a lot there. So really well played there coming out from the solo laners of IG. And honestly, this is a brand new chapter for them. I'm so excited to see this roster kind of continue to grow, because this is just a new IG. Obviously, we always think of IG. We think of Rookie, The Shy, JackeyLove, all those different players. But this is a brand new chapter, and it looks like they're finally embracing those new personalities.
Yeah, the team synergy is definitely there, and I think the most crucial turning point for IG was that 5v5 when it came to the blue buff. And of course, we saw that YSKM got a flash E onto 3 carries, and Delve was able to flash in and get a 3-man ultimate, just tossing out the damage, and the synergy was just perfect when it came to these team fights. Like, Maokai landed an ultimate, and everyone just went for it. And I think just the scaling in general when it came to the team comps, although RNG were fastening up the tempo for the early game, they didn't have a decent answer when it does come to the late game. Like, you would usually draft one scaling champion, but the Caitlyn decided to go, I believe it was BT and Gale for a second, so she doesn't even do that much damage in the end.
Well, yeah, she didn't do that much damage at all, to be perfectly honest, as we see there. Bunny almost equaling out there. But yeah, honestly, it just felt like RNG's composition just never, outside of the first 10-15 minutes, never really came together to do anything. Like, you're looking at everyone trying to get close in and try and, you know, pick off someone, but the Nami tidal wave, the ultimate, the jumps and the blinks available to pretty much everybody on the side of IG just makes it so difficult. And full credit to IG and their coaching staff. They built a composition that just became so difficult to actually counter, and the fact that they were able to say, look, you left open the Lucian Nami, we're fine with sacking the bot lane for a little bit because we know that our solo lanes are where we're going to win.
Yeah, we need to highlight that, well, we need to give credit to An for topping the damage charts for the side of IG when he was set so behind when it came to the early game. I believe he was constantly 50 CS down when it came to the first dragon, and he was suffering a lot, but he managed to bring back the goal difference through those team fights, and we still have the old Kassadin icon available for this scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get rid of the history. No, it is always one of those jarring things. You're like, we haven't updated that. Wonder why, but go thinking emoji. But Will, a lot more thinking going to have to go for RNG as they come into the second game. IG very much sitting undefeated and happy at the moment. We're going to send it to a quick break, and when we return, picks and bans for